All right, obviously a lot of question marks coming in week one in regards to the Cowboys' run game. Young O-line, Zach Martin retiring, not the brightest names in the backfield. Javonte obviously had a great start to his career, but injuries kind of derailed that a little bit. And also, too, Brian Schottenheimer being a first-year head coach, not having called plays for a while. How is that going to look? He said he wanted to run the ball and be physical, and I think we did that. I think we were much more physical than they were on the defensive line, and obviously Jalen Carter spitting on Dak and getting kicked out of the game helps with that. But 22 carries, under 19 yards, a little under 5.5 yards per carry, and 2 touchdowns on the ground is a pretty successful day against a really good front seven. So starting off here, first what I want us to notice is a lot of the stuff that we did with Ferg. Brevin spanned forward too. I thought he had a great day blocking, pulling them, and then even Lipke. Like, we were kicking out guys all night. Ran a lot of gap scheme stuff, and I thought also Schottenheimer did a good job with setting up some of his formations as the game went on to give our offensive line some good leverage on their interior and make those down blocks easier and allow us to reach linebackers a little bit easier. And we'll touch on that later in the video. So this is the first play of the game after the spit gates, why our field position is so good. Just going to run some split zone action here with Fergie sealing off the backside and then just straight inside zone to the left. And so, watch here. Fergie's going to come, kick this out. All right, and then we're just doubling and climbing, and then sealing off here, trying to create a little alley through here. Motion, you can see Bond bumps over, and then he sees the split zone action back, so he starts bumping back, allows for an easy reach here. And then also Campbell, I mean, he's a rookie, so he probably isn't as aggressive or as ready as some of the linebackers that we're going to see later in the year. Still a great player, but just not going to be as downhill as you'd maybe like to see him through here. Week one, first play of his career. So it kind of allows for an easy reach for Tyler Smith. I want you to watch, too. Tyler Smith does an awesome job. Jordan Davis allowing BB to reach him. He just keeps fighting, keeps pushing him as he's climbing up to Campbell and then walls off Campbell. That's something you'll notice throughout this film. Tyler Smith is a wall. He does such a great job consistently, whether he's down blocking or whether when he's getting up to the second level. He turns his butt to the sideline wherever he's trying to wall off, and our running backs are running right off it. So that's something you'll notice routinely throughout this film. All right, this is the second play of the game. Getting Terp involved early. I loved seeing that. We even had him in the backfield at one point. It's just a little power read play. Dak's reading Bond on the inside here. See it a little bit better from the end zone angle. All right, so we're going to be sealing off here, send the Javonte out to Jazine, the overhang on the field side to allow Turpin to work off that, not have to worry about him, and then just pulling guys around. So if Bond flies over with the motion, Dak can pull it, run through this alley created here by Book and T. Steele. If Bond sits, it's an easy give for Dak. So I'm curious, too. This was obviously a give with how Bond was sitting. Still being one of the fastest inside linebackers in the league somehow makes the play. Sets up his third and short for us, but are we going to try to do more stuff with Dak like this year? I know he's not much early in his career. Obviously, he was doing some read option stuff and some power read stuff, and we were getting the ball in his hands between the tackles and outside the tackles. But I don't know. I know they said Dak seems more mobile this year. He looked more mobile the other night. At least doesn't have blazing speed, but it would be nice for at least him to be a threat to pull the ball and go. That way these guys aren't having easy keys in our running backs or stuff like this when we get Turpin involved in the jet game. Next play, 2nd and 4 here. This ends up setting that 3rd and 1 where we hit the long play to CD, but just more eye candy with the motion. Okay, have Terp going across, back and forth. And then here, let me start it from the beginning. All right, Terp motions across, comes back across there in man's coverage, so you have guys running in front of linebacker's face, just that half step. All right, that half-step kind of delay that Bond might have here with the eye candy from the motion, DeJean run in front of his face, that allows BB to get up there and reach him and turn his hips, and then we're running right off that. Going to the end zone cam, looking at it, Terp motions across. You can see how obnoxious this would be with DeJean run in front of your face. Everything's happening so fast in the NFL, especially between the tackles. Any extra stuff that we can give the inside backers, I think, is good. People always talk about motion in the pass game. I think it's just as important to have it as a key part of your run game as well. All right, so we're actually going to be kicking out the two-tech here. One thing I really enjoyed from Schotty's offense the other night was we were kicking out everybody. This isn't necessarily a pass down, but we were running on 1st and 10. We were running on 2nd and 10, 2nd and 10, like most of the times a pass down in the NFL. But we're still kicking guys out on those downs. We're not letting guys like Nolan out here, number 3 out here, and then 50 out here, being able to key up and just get off the line for the pass because they've been getting kicked all night, so they have to worry about it. And then we're kicking two techniques too, so you're not safe. 97 does a pretty good job of recognizing this and squeezing down and kind of condensing that gap. But I think other than that, it's really well executed by our D-line. Tyler Smith, again, he's just a wall running off his butt. He gets underneath Davis's pads, and this is a pretty compromised position right here for a D-lineman to be. And then nice job just everybody reaching. And Javonte, all he's really doing here on this little wham play is reading Tyler Beebe's butt. All right, so wherever those hips get turned to, we're just going to run off his butt. Ends up setting 31, which sets up that CD play. CD gets tagged down at the 1, and then we have this Javonte touchdown. We'll watch it again. More motion. All right, we're getting another thing to point out with the motion, apart from it just being some eye candy, some extra stuff for the inside backers to have to worry about, kind of bump over with and stuff, and then bump back with kind of that zigzag motion we were doing throughout the night, is it gives him momentum to go and kick this guy to hell. So we got some momentum, and then boom. It's so much harder to take on a kick block if that guy has that full steam of momentum pre-snap and then gets to use it. And then Tyler Booker wrapping around, doing a nice job climbing up to that inside backer and just getting hands on. Or I think this was a corner that folded in, or a safety that folded down. Go from the end zone cam. All right, so Lipke's going to be kicking out here. All right, we're just doubling here and climbing to Bond. All right, and then just sealing off everything backside. And then, obviously, down in this here. Play it through. Look at the push that BB and Tyler Smith get here. I mean, where Javonte ends up is where Tyler Smith starts on this play. He basically just has to run straight. And then Guyton does a good job at the very end. I'd like him to come off a little bit sooner because Spanford is just dog walking this guy. But ends up getting just enough of a hand on Bond to not let him make that play and Javonte to get through. All right. Another good drive starter here. There's the 1st and 10. All right, we got 21 personnel here. All right, we did that a decent amount throughout the night. We got paid Lipke a decent little contract for a fullback, so we may as well use him a lot, and I thought they did a really good job of using him. And he's a great player, whether he's kicking out or whether he's folding up to linebackers or wrapping up to linebackers. He does great. So right here, we're just going to kick out here with Tyler Smith. Good collision there between him and Nolan Smith, and then wrapping up with Lipke. Go from the end zone cam. This is kind of what it looks like, just down and everything here. Schoonmaker does a great job at chipping 97 and allowing Terrence Steele to reach him and then climbing up to the backside backer and Campbell. Let it play through. And Lipke, too, coming through and doing a good job on that collision there and allowing Javonte a little window to run off to. I'd like to see Steele drive this guy a little bit more. He's a tall guy, so it's hard to get underneath those pads. But he gets a little high there and allows this guy to fight back underneath him. Schoonmaker does a good job with the chip, though, and then climbing to Campbell and sealing that off. But a nice drive starter, though. Nice drive starter. Also, too, I like this offset eye. They were bumping their 3 technique to our 3-man surface anytime we had a tight end on the field, or if we were in 11 personnel, they were bumping to that tight end. But we give them a 3-man surface over here with Lipke, Smith, and Guyton. And so they kind of come out in a pretty symmetrical front. And so that allows us, when we're pulling these guys and then sealing these guys off backside, to get some numbers over here and create a gap right in here. It's not the biggest one in the world, but if Guyton Steele could have gotten a little bit more push, this could have been a really big play. All right, you see more motion, more eye candy. All right, we're giving Spanford some momentum to kick out. More 21 personnel, too. I liked how they were using Lipke's, wrapping through here, and we're able to run right behind them. Guyton does a good job. You can see these first kind of couple steps. All right, so what he's doing, here we'll come from the end zone cam. It'll be a little bit easier to see. So the Eagles did this a couple times. They ended up messing them up. We'll touch on it later on in that big 49-yard run with Sanders, and they got out-leveraged. All right, but so he's checking this guy since we have 2 C-gap defenders right here. He takes kind of these shuffle steps to make sure this guy doesn't go into the B-gap, because if this guy shoots in the B-gap, then we have to down that with Tyler Guyton, and we'd end up kicking this guy out as opposed to the 5-tech. But that guy sits in the C-gap, so we can climb easy up to Bond, Tyler Smith, Cooper Beebe, just animals. Look at these down blocks. I mean, Smith was just mauling. I don't know who 94 was. It's obviously not Jalen Carter, but Smith was mauling him all night and creating these windows to where we can just run off his butt. Nice kick out by Spanford. You can see Spanford adjusts his angle as he's going. So he's kind of right here on the line and then goes down so that way this end can't get underneath this. And we still secure the kick out to allow 40 Lipke to wrap up through. And then just look at Javonte run this feed. I thought he did a great job running between the tackles all night and picking up about as many yards as he could. He's not a home run hitter by any means, especially after the injuries. But between the tackles, like 1st and 10, he's going to put us in good situations, setting up 2nd and 6, 2nd and 5. All right, in this setup, the 1st and goal from the 1, his 2nd touchdown of the night. Eagles are just going to try to close off the A-gap here. They come out with their heavy personnel, and they're just going to try to shut these A-gaps down, but we do a great job getting a double team here, and Tyler Booker accidentally kind of cuts him. I don't think he was meaning to do that. I think he was trying to get hands on, but ends up just kind of cutting him. And then the double team by BB and Smith here, getting good push. When in doubt, just find 73 and run behind him. So 2nd touchdown of the night there for Javonte. All right, we got a 2nd and 7 situation here. I thought this was a really good play call. So no risk here of if we drop back, we take a sack, all of a sudden we're out of field goal range. All right, 2nd and 7, we can set ourselves up with the 3rd manageable here. And also use some more eye candy with CD, force these linebackers to bump out. And then look, we got Turp in the backfield. Ain't no reason he can't run between the tackles. But what it does, it forces Bond to bump out. He has to pay respect to CD potentially going out here on this bubble. Nolan Smith has to pay a little bit of attention to Dak if he pulls it, and so it allows us to just get leverage here. And we were in this formation earlier in the night where we kind of put Ferg in tight here, and it was 2x2, but he's really a tight end, so this is still a 3-man surface. And a lot of the times what they were doing was they were setting their 3 technique. We'll be able to see it better from the end zone. All right, so they were setting their 3 technique to the tight end. And so what that allows us to do is to pin and pull and wrap up through here. Once you get that linebacker over too, you don't have to worry about him being involved in the play. Just really good play design. Like Steele, he could go up and seal this guy off, but he's bumping so far over with CD, and because of the player that CD is, that we can just go straight up to the safety with Steele. And then look at the hole that's created from this. I mean, that's about as good as it gets right there. And if 3 doesn't do a really good job of chasing this from the backside, this might have been a touchdown. There's a decent chance of it. Good down block by Guyton here. Booker does a really good job. All right, he doesn't get any help on this reach block, but still does a really good job with these initial steps of getting there and then turning those hips to allow that run lane to form. All right, get some more split zone action. So we showed in that first play. All right, so watch this play real quick. It's the same play as the first play of the game that we ran, just different side. All right, and I'm going to explain to you why the cutback lane works this time, because he actually ends up cutting it back and through this cutback lane and picking up a nice chunk. All right, it's 1st and 10, so same kind of situation, relatively same spot on the field. Okay, so first thing I want us to know is, so we're in 2x2 here, 2x2 here. All right, we got that attached, so we got a 3-man surface here, so they're going to set the 3 technique to the 3-man surface side, okay? So Javonte, knowing this, okay, he knows that a lot of his leverage is going to be this way with the 3 technique set to the side that you're getting that split action. So the split action is him coming back and kicking out. And then Bond even fills down here too. So just Javonte is straight off the B gap towards the zone side. All right, but we go later in the game. All right, same play, just flipped. Okay. And because we have a 3 receiver set over here, their linebackers have to bump over. All right, so now we have a linebacker kind of over the center and a linebacker over the tackle here. All right, and so with that, you have to set, and this is pretty standard in the NFL, you set your 3 technique and your 2-eye or your 1 away, or your 3 technique away from the trips, and you set your 2-eye towards the trips. Okay, and so we still have all the same action, motion Ferg. All right, all that same action, but now the leverage is backside because the 3 technique is set towards this side. So if that makes sense. All right, so we got 3 receivers set. So basically the linebackers bump towards that, the D-line bumps away from that, and so now the action is going to be through here. And just that little, we could have just run it straight inside zone, seal off away, but this little motion action right here, okay, what this allows is an easier reach for Guyton. He starts flowing with that motion, easier reach for Guyton, and we're able to run off his butt. Wish CD would have held this block a little bit better because it could have been a big play by Javonte. But that's why that cutback lane was open as opposed to the first play. So this is just Schotty getting creative. I love to see it. We're running the same play, but we're on a different set. He knew that early in the game, all right, Baum was flowing pretty hard with that. Okay, so now we're going to set a 3 receiver surface over this way, so they have to set their 3 technique opposite, and then we're just going to hit off that cutback. Good play. All right, here's the long run by Miles Sanders. So this is a play that we kind of ran earlier, except this was the play where Turpin was in the backfield and you had CD going on this motion. So you see the same thing, we get that same action. All right, except what happens differently this time is the Eagles bump down into a 5-man front. Okay, so now we have all the leverage in the world. Because initially on this pin and pull play that we did earlier when it was Turpin in the backfield, here we'll go back to it and show you which play was that. All right, here. All right, we just sealed off this guy, and then we wrapped it up between Fergie and Booker. All right, so we sealed off here and wrapped it up between Fergie and Booker. So now what they do here is they bring this guy into the C gap and then Jahad Campbell out here. So now we don't have anybody to climb to. We can just down. So we can just down here, and then kick, and then wrap. Okay, and we have all the leverage in the world. Bond's bumping over with the motion. This little exchange right here kind of bit the Eagles in the butt. And it led to a big run. Sanders did a good job being patient, following that second puller. You'll see on a lot of these plays, our running backs do a decent job of finding that second puller and then getting behind them. And then once he sees that window, Terrence Steele does an awesome job. Same thing as that last pin and pull with Turpin in the backfield. Bond's bumping out to respect the bubble to CD, so we don't have to worry about him. We can just go straight up to the safety. Fortunately, Sanders gets hawked down, then fumbles the next play. I think Jaden Blue would have scored there, but I don't know. We'll see if he's a healthy scratch next week or not. All right, and then I just want to show this last play, something to be excited about with Tyler Booker. Yeah, he gets a chip from Steele here. But Nolan Smith actually does a great job of blowing this play off. This is one of the few times that we didn't successfully kick out their edge. He goes underneath the Tyler Smith kick and gets in here on this play. And so it kind of blows it up. But because Booker's getting such good look at this. This guy's – it's not a good position to be in if you're a D lineman, especially an interior defensive lineman. And we're able to still get some good yards through there because of how successful Booker was on his down block. So, yeah, I think a promising start for our offensive line. I thought Javonte looked great running between the tackles. I'd like to see Jaden Blue get in there and do some stuff outside the tackles, but we have Terp for that too. I think we have a good mix of power and then getting guys on the edge and some speed. And then maybe teams will start respecting Dak, running a little bit more. We showed some stuff where he was doing some reading. It's just that with how this game worked out, he was giving it a lot. I thought Fergie and especially Span Ford did a great job. That stuff we were doing, Schotty did a great job with his play design, setting up some of the formations, forcing them with our formations, another 3-man surface here. And they're having the bump. Look at all the stuff that they're having to do pre-snap, getting them out leveraged. So I think great job by Schottenheimer, great job by this O-line. I thought we were more physical than we were last year. And, we'll see how it carries over to week 2. I think just as good of a defensive front and front 7 there in New York. So hopefully we can have the same success on the ground then. That's going to be it for today. See you guys.